Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are St. Louis.
Welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball from Cincinnati. The Central Division rivals St. Louis Cardinals and Cincinnati Reds as St. Louis begins a 6-game road trip here tonight. These clubs met up last week. Mike Leake and Anthony DeSclafani, tonight's pitcher, were outstanding. In fact, the Cardinals 22 straight innings without scoring against the Reds. Glad you're with us. Rick Horton, Al Raboski. And Al, what do the Cardinals need to do to get that offense moving?
Well, I think they just have to come out here and swing the bats. Remember, you're in a very small ballpark here. The ball will fly here. And Scarlafani, I think, is a little different pitcher when you see him in this ballpark. So just go out and take that same approach. Those balls that ended up on the warning track will be in the seats.
Well, the Reds have a pretty good offense as well. In fact, in this game, we've got two very good third basemen. Matt Carpenter for St. Louis. He'll lead the way. And Todd Frazier, all-star third baseman for the Reds. We've got more from Cincinnati after this. start against Colorado, and it was one he'd like to forget. He went 4 innings, gave up 12 hits, 10 runs, 8 of them earned in an 11-3 Cardinal loss. Since then, John Lackey has been terrific. He has allowed 2 or less runs in each of his 9 starts. He's gone 6-3 with an earned run average of 1.67. He's been very solid in Mike Matheny's rotation. John Lackey will take the hill tonight in Cincinnati. We'll be back with more after this. Brought to you by Budweiser. Make a plan to make it home. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And visit your local Mid-America Chevy dealers for great prices on our all-new 2015 vehicles today. The Queen City, perfect night for baseball. Road trip begins here tonight under the lights in Cincinnati. And we've got a rematch of John Lackey and Anthony DeSclafani. They went at it in St. Louis, and here's Mike Matheny's lineup for Game 1. It'll be Carpenter, Piscotty, and Hayward 1, 2, 3, followed by Peralta, Moss, and Molina in the middle, Colton Wong, Randall Grichuk, and the pitcher John Lackey for Mike Matheny. And the Cardinals bench looks like this: Peter Borges, Mark Reynolds, Pete Kozma, and Tony Cruz from the right side. And Greg Garcia will be on the bench from the left side, and he's off to a good start since being recalled. And the pitcher for Cincinnati, Al, Anthony DeSclafani.
DeSclafani is the veteran now. At 25 years of age, he's the old man of the pitching staff. They have 5 rookie starters, and he's making his 26th Major League start, 21st start this year. He beat the Cardinals and Lackey last time. It was a 1-0 gem. But in this ballpark, he's had his problems the last couple starts, and I think the Cardinal hitters will make him pay.
And on the grass at third is Frazier, and this game is underway.
You agree with where Frazier is playing?
Surprised he's playing so shallow to take the bunt away from Carpenter. We haven't seen him do it that often. He does a nice job of hitting the ball the other way, too.
Exactly, and I think it really works to the advantage of Carpenter having a third baseman come in. Now you can see him back up a little bit. And Carpenter's hit .356 in the leadoff spot this year.
Really had a breakout game at home. He had been struggling mightily, and then all of a sudden just found it. Al found the power stroke and started to really kind of contribute to this offense, really put the offense on his shoulders in that leadoff spot.
Yeah, he had 3 home runs in the Colorado series.
And he swings and misses at that delivery, so that's how this game begins. A strikeout of Matt Carpenter. And we'll look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal of this young right-hander.
Well, you can see the 2 and the 4 seam, the fastballs, the sinker. The slider is his big pitch, so it's really going to be a lot of fastballs. Try to work on both sides of the plate. The slider's a pretty good pitch. The changeup, a work in progress.
Stephen Piscotty, rookie against rookie here. That pitch at 93. Piscotty has an 8-game hitting streak. In fact, he's hit in all 10 of his starts as a Cardinal rookie.
And I kind of like it too, breaking up the first 2, a lefty, a righty, kind of complements the rest of the order. Scotty was 1 for 3 last week facing this starter.
Two and 1 the count, and a broken bat. Back to the pitcher, DeSclafani, who barehands it, throws out the Cardinal left fielder, so 2 quick outs here in the first. DeSclafani will have the following defense behind him. That's brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Bird, Hamilton, and Bruce in the outfield. Very good defenders with good arms from left to right. Suarez and Frazier on the left side. Phillips, the veteran Gold Glover, and Votto on the right side. And behind the plate, Brian Pena.
We talk about the Cardinals, their offense struggling against the Reds. 22 consecutive scoreless innings. The last time the Cardinals were shut out by the Reds in St. Louis was a doubleheader on June 11th, 1937.
Late swing and a foul by Jason Hayward.
Excuse me, I was off by a month. July 11th, 1937.
Want to get that right.
Oh, yeah. Somebody might be remembering that game.
Not many, Hal.
Ducky Medwick, they kept the Ducky Medwick down.
Breaking pitch misses inside at 89. Hayward in the 3rd spot tonight. We've seen him everywhere in this lineup, haven't we?
Yeah, and I think he's capable of hitting wherever they put him. I don't think it bothers him.
Up the middle, base hit for Hayward. 2-out single. The Cardinals have a runner, and Hayward now has a 7-game hitting streak, and he's 10 for his last 19.
And that's one of the things, too, that these left-handed batters are going to have to do some damage tonight. You know, he's now 2 for 3 up at DeSclafani. Gets this ball up the middle. 7-game hitting streak for him, and he's now 10 for 19 during that time.
Now has the highest batting average of any Cardinal regular. Hard to believe that, isn't it?
Yes.
With the start that he had. Johnny Peralta's had a good season. He's at 285 right now with 16 homers and 54 RBI. Nice lead by Hayward, not going. Pena has only thrown out 5 of 42 who've attempted to steal. That's just 11%, so you wonder if the Cardinals might take advantage of that and run on him in this series.
You got your Cardinals' best base stealer on first base. For whatever reason, Peralta struggled against the Reds. You'd think with all the games when he was playing with Cleveland, the in-state rivalry with the Reds, that he would have much better numbers, but they just really kind of have kept him down.
He had an 0 for 19 at one point during the homestand, but he homered on Friday and followed it with a home run on Saturday. Very good pop for the Cardinal shortstop. But he waves at that delivery, so 2 strikeouts in the inning, a Hayward base hit. And we're underway in Cincinnati. Lackey to work. manager for the Reds. A year ago, 10 games under 500, and he has weathered a storm this season and has a lot of young players, especially in his rotation. But his lineup: Phillips, Votto, Frazier, Bruce, Bird, and Pena in the middle. Suarez, DeSclafani, the pitcher, batting 8th. And the very exciting Billy Hamilton will be in center field and bat 9. On the bench, Ivan DeJesus Jr. and Jason Bourgeois from the right side. Skip Schumacher, one of our favorites, from the left side. And Tucker Barnhart, the switch-hitting catcher, also on the bench. And they will face tonight John Lackey, who's really been superb over the last 6 weeks.
Oh, he really has been. He's seeking his 10th straight quality start. He's posted a 1.67 ERA during those 9 starts. 8 of those 9, he's gone 7 innings. The one time he did not go 7, he went 6 2/3.
And Lackey's first pitch is right on time. Strike 1 to Brandon Phillips.
And it usually is first pitch strikes with Lackey.
Working quickly, popped up right side. That'll be out of play. Phillips is just 2 for 17 lifetime against John Lackey. And if you're looking for a Red that's hit him well, I think the choice would be Marlon Byrd, who is hitting over 300 against Lackey, but not a lot of experience, as John has made 6 starts against Cincinnati. Back up the middle, base hit, and not where he wanted that 0-2 delivery. Let's take a look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal of the Cardinals starter, John Lackey.
See, 48% of the time he's going to throw the 4-seamer. Almost 20% going to be the sinker. Those are his 2 primary fastballs. And then the slider at 22.2. Occasionally I'll mix in a changeup, a curveball. And here's another guy that you might look that hits him pretty well. Not that many at bats, 2 for 6, but his 2 hits are home runs.
He hits everybody well, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a good player.
He has been on fire since the All-Star game, hitting .491. And with Votto, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the power, the RBIs, but you're also going to get walks, deep counts, and a high on-base percentage.
Kind of a controversy here in Cincinnati is they feel with Joey Votto, who they're paying a ton of money and still have a decade more contract with him, but they almost feel like you'd rather win the on-base percentage rather than the RBI total. Very capable, former MVP of the league. But I think at times they'd like to see him swing the bat more often.
Interesting. He and Yachty having a little fun moment together. The Reds are coming off a series where they weren't very cordial with the other team. Let's put it that way.
Pirates.
They split with the Pirates. Hit into center field. Grichuk first went back, and ball drops in left center field. We've seen that a number of times from Randall Grichuk, having a hard time getting the read off the bat in center field. Our lows never stop improving. Joey Votto is ranked since the All-Star break. We mentioned the .491 batting average, also first in walks, so of course the on-base percentage also first, and the OPS is through the roof. Catchable ball, Al?
Well, as you said, you got to respect his power, and I don't think he got a good read on it at all. And at this time too, you're really trying to settle in, but I'm not sure he would have caught that ball. He'd have to dive, because Scotty was there to back up the play. He actually got through the ball first. And we've seen Lackey obviously pitch much better at home, but really he's pitched pretty well on the road recently too. So let's get a double play right here and see if we can get out of here unscathed.
Last delivery may have caught Yachty on the right shoulder.
That was a little better when we were at home, when Frazier, I think it was Frazier that hit that foul ball right square off the mask, and Yachty had to come out of that game eventually.
Pitch from Lackey, grounded to the left side. Carpenter to second for 1. There's Wong on the turn. 5-4-3 double play. Exactly what John Lackey wanted there. In a very tough part of the Cincinnati Reds lineup. Take a look at our Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's Cardinals defense behind John Lackey. Piscotty and Grichuk, you've seen them in the outfield, left and center. Jason Hayward, very good defender in right. Peralta and Wong up the middle. Carpenter and Moss at the corners, and Yadier Molina behind the plate.
It was a Jay Bruce home run in the second inning in St. Louis that did all the damage in the 1-0 game.
Watching that game that John Lackey had in St. Louis against the Reds, again a kind of a rematch of he and DeSclafani. I don't know that Lackey has pitched better as a Cardinal than he did that night.
No, and I think the reason we have to kind of say no is the fact that he's pitched so many well games.
Yeah.
Good games where there's a lot to choose from. I thought the makeup game on the 23rd against Kansas City is one of the better ones.
Big swing and a miss by Bruce. Very dangerous hitter.
He gave up only 2 hits to the Reds. Scratch hit and then the solo home run by Jay Bruce. Other than that, he was nearly perfect.
2-1 the count to Bruce. Late swing and a base hit the other way. Reds get on the board. Phillips scores. Bruce to second, and it's 1-0 Cincinnati.
John Lackey very upset with himself. Just, you got a guy that a lot of times you consider pretty much a pull hitter. Oftentimes the Reds have tried to get him to hit the ball the opposite field, but he makes this pitch that's running away, and he kind of hits it right inside the bag and slices into the corner for a 1-0 Reds lead.
I think all the minor league hitting coaches, Al, that we ran across in the day, and they love to say, there are hits on that side of the field too. Kind of a common phrase.
Oh yeah. And Ricky, as a pitcher, if you get a guy that's a dead pull hitter, it's easy to pitch to him. But if they spray the ball around, you can't stay in one location.
So Lackey will try to minimize the damage here, facing Marlon Byrd. He has really resurrected his career. There's a time where he might have been moments away from being out of baseball, but he continues to produce. He does strike out a lot, but 18 home runs on the season for Byrd. Good hitter's ballpark here in Cincinnati. 1-1 the count. And the pitch. Swing and a miss. Good pitch there by Lackey on the outside corner.
Good movement down and away. Location was great. Actually, Byrd has been a nemesis for Lackey. Well, it's key to get him out here with a runner in scoring position.
That runner is Bruce. He has a nice lead. Good arms in the outfield for St. Louis. Lackey checks on Bruce. The 1-2 is way out of the zone. 2-2. Two is hit hard right center field. This could be trouble, and it's down off the wall, and Byrd has a double behind Jay Bruce's double, and it's 2-0 Cincinnati. That ball was crushed.
I think you'll see it's another hanging breaking ball. Looked like he wanted a slider, wanted it down and away, and it just kind of hung over the middle of the plate. So he knew what he wanted to do, just wasn't able to execute it. Look, wanted away, and look where that ball is. Got his glove, starts going to the middle of the plate. It stays up on a little breaking ball in the middle. You can't make it to a guy that hits you well.
Switch hitting catcher is Brian Pena, who hits better from the left side, over 300 as a left-handed batter. And he takes ball one. One thing you normally get from John Lackey is strike one. He's been behind a few hitters in the early going.
One of the top pitchers in all of baseball at throwing first pitch strikes. And you can see a little frustrated. He's been around a long time. He's going to try and get himself under control, and wouldn't surprise you if he collects his thoughts after this inning's over and then shuts you out the rest of the way. But You saw last night, or last time out, that one run could be the difference, and he spotted them too.
Only 2 of 6 first pitch strikes in the early going. And that's way inside. 3-0. Eugenio Suarez will bat next. Record at home much better than on the road. The road numbers skewed a bit by that disastrous game in Colorado. Swinging 3-0. Pena bounces it foul. I always thought, Al, if you're going to swing 3-0, you should swing and almost fall down. Maybe not fall down, but swing like you mean it.
Well, I mean, managers give the green light, but they're hoping that you get a pitch that you could drive, not fall down, but you can head out of the ballpark.
Right.
And if you hit a line drive right at somebody, you got the pitch you were looking for. You pop it up, it's not the pitch you're looking for. And sometimes I think most people would rather hit 3-1.
It's now 3-2, and the pitch, and on the hands of Pena, and he fouls it back. In fact, back in your day, Al, if somebody swung at a 3-0 and fell down, they wouldn't have to worry about swinging at the next pitch, would they?
No, they might worry about picking themselves up, but
I love getting you riled up, Al. One of my favorite things.
I kind of like to be riled up.
The 3-2 off the plate, and the first walk for Lackey. So he's only been able to retire one batter, which turned into a double play. That was Todd Frazier, the All-Star, and that brings out Derek Lilliquist.
And Derek, has seen the frustration from Lackey, and he's one of those veteran guys that's going to wear his emotions on his sleeve a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you also got to get him back in gear to where he can control this game and keep them from scoring more.
Cardinals took 3 out of 4 against the Rockies to close out a 7-4 homestand. Off day yesterday. 3 games here in Cincinnati, then on to Milwaukee. The Reds split a 4-game series with the Pirates, and as we mentioned, had a nice little meeting on the field with both ball clubs, with some tempers flaring a bit. And the first pitch to Suarez, check swing, but he couldn't hold up. Strike 1. Hard hit, base hit to center field. That will score Marlon Byrd, and it's 3-0 Cincinnati. And a rough inning here in the first for John Lackey.
Second RBI for Suarez, scoring Marlon Byrd.
You mentioned that Lackey, Al, has made 6 starts in his career against the Cincinnati Reds. We'll look at that last delivery. Pretty much middle again. In those 6 starts, 2-1 with a 2.78 ERA against Cincinnati. But struggling here in the first. DeSclafani swings the bat pretty well, waves at that delivery. Hitting 194.
7 for 36 with a couple RBIs.
And Lackey finishes him off. A frustrating first for the Cardinal veteran. And he airs it out a bit. Cincinnati first. Not the start that John Lackey wanted here at Great American Ballpark. But let's look at our Toyota keys to the game here tonight.
Well, remember who you are. You're the team with the best record in baseball. You're 6-3 against the Reds this year. Last 17 series versus Cincinnati. The Reds are between these two clubs. The Reds are 3-14, and also Moss. You know, you got to go out there and build on your walk-off moment. You got the walk-off hit last time. He's all throws 3 for 6 with a home run off of this right hit.
And what a moment that was. A chance to walk him and pitch to Molina, but Walt Weiss chose to pitch to Moss. And his first RBI as a Cardinal produced a little dancing there at first base. That was a nice moment. He is clearly very happy, Al, to be a Cardinal.
Well, gained a lot of ground in the standings, and they're joining the first place club. Best record in baseball. You think you got a great shot to go to postseason and beyond. I mentioned that he's 3 for 6 off of this right-hander. 3 for 6 with a home run. It was kind of 2 for 11 on the young year, but he hit some balls right on the nose that just were on the warning track. He does that in this ballpark, they'll be in the seats.
The 0-2 delivery is high. They have the big shift on for Moss. And he does have the power that Al mentioned. And this is clearly a hitter's ballpark. Mike Matheny talking about that before the game. And the backdoor breaking ball is a called third strike. So that's 3 strikeouts here in the early going for DeSclafani. Sharp break to that delivery.
Yeah, and that's something where, you know, a lot of times the first time you face a guy, you don't know a lot about him. This is actually the 3rd start. He started against the Cardinals one time last year with Miami. And then he was part of the Latos deal that brought him to Cincinnati.
Yadier Molina gets his typical booze here.
Kind of faded out.
Yeah, it wasn't as loud as it's been. It certainly wasn't as loud as we heard during the All-Star game. But that was more fun, I would say, than anything else. I think all the players took it that way.
Yeah, you know, it really is a backhanded compliment when you're booed on the road.
Ground ball right side. Phillips doesn't miss many. Tomorrow, Fox Sports Midwest brings you 2 new episodes on Cardinals legends. First up at 5 p.m., we recap great moments in past pennant races. Then after the game, stay tuned for comebacks at 10:30. Cardinals legends brought to you by your Mid-America Chevy dealers. Tomorrow at 5 and 10:30 on Fox Sports Midwest.
Colton could tell you about a couple walk-offs. He has a couple of them in his career against the Pirates. Tried that strikeout pitch to Moss, the backdoor breaking ball. Fastball in.
1-1 to Wong, and he got it in. Came back over the plate a little bit. There are teams that try to pitch Wong in, which is part of the reason he has 13 hit by pitches. Become a pincushion, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
We thought John Jay was good at that. Wong's been better, if you could call it better. Long strike.
And the ones that do try to pitch him inside, they want to make sure they get it inside far enough that he can't pull it down the line. If he does hit it well, he pulls it.
1-2, swing and a miss. Wong strikes out. 4 strikeouts in 2 innings for the rookie right-hander. 3-0 Cincinnati. Cardinal rookie left fielder Stephen Piscotty. With more on Stephen, we go to Jim Hayes.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable start to the major league career of Stephen Piscotty. He's hit safely in each of his 10 big league starts. There's something calm about him in everything he does. You see him in the field, calm. At the plate, Piscotty is calm. He told me it's always been that way. He says he's more analytical, not, quote, the rah-rah kind of guy. In fact, he told me the word that probably best describes him is bland. Ricky, Greg Garcia told me on the pregame show he saw Piscotty double and then clap his hands together in a hard manner after the double, and he said that's all you're going to get from Piscotty. I don't think too many people would describe him as bland, however, Ricky. I think he's been outstanding.
Well, he can hit. If he's bland, he can still hit. But, Jim, I know that you said this past week that Randall Grichuk, if he had to describe him in a word, he would say nerd. So we've got nerd, we've got bland. But I've seen him with you, and he has some pretty good answers when you have a chance to get him one-on-one.
Yeah, he's a thoughtful guy and obviously the smartest guy in the room. Greg Garcia also told me on the pregame show that when Piscotty gets into a discussion, Greg kind of checks out because he doesn't think he has the intellectual capacity to understand some of it.
Oh, there's so many things I could say, Jim, that I'm not going to, but thank you for that update on Stephen Piscotty. We'll talk later. Infield hit for Brandon Phillips.
You could just say that John Lackey goes, this is par for the course. Just a swinging bunt. Look at how far he's on the grass, all the way until about the last step. But Carpenter has no chance in this ball. Don't even waste a throw.
So Phillips aboard. This Reds team likes to run. Main guy, of course, Billy Hamilton. Lackey got him, but not Phillips. Phillips, 14 stolen bases. I think he runs quite the way he used to, but he's still been very effective in stealing bases.
14 out of 15, and it creates a hole for Votto, who doesn't really need one, on the right side.
Breaking pitch, hangs a little bit, middle of the plate.
You saw the same thing I saw, and that's a lot what Bird hit, that type of pitch. He didn't swing at it here, but if he would have, that would have gone a long way.
Again, Lackey behind in the count. Very dangerous when facing a guy like Joey Votto. Votto, 9th in the National League in batting at .309, 19 homers, 51 RBIs, and the 2-0 misses, 3-0.
It's tough to pitch to when you get a situation like this because he will take the walk. If you groove one, he's got the ability to hit it in the seats.
So with Votto loving to walk, do you think he'd even remotely swing at a 3-0?
Probably not. But see, there's a good mental approach because he had the green light, but he wasn't going to swing unless it was the pitch he was looking for, just grooved for him.
Got the breaking ball 3-0. Not going as Phillips. Another breaking ball misses low. And the second walk for John Lackey. Time to look at our BJC difference maker. Lowest road ERA since 1969. Cardinals at 3.10 this season, which is a terrific earned run average. You look at the 82 team and a couple of teams, Al, that you were probably on in the 70s.
Yeah, I was on those teams, but the only one lower, and they're going to go. Lackey just really didn't pay any attention to Phillips, and he steals off the pitcher.
A lot of frustrating things going on for John Lackey, and he gets robbed blind here.
Yeah.
He does not pay attention to Phillips. He steals third, puts himself in scoring position for Todd Frazier.
The double play is still in order with Votto stuck at first.
That was pitch number 40 already for John Lackey.
So maybe you could get Todd Frazier hit into a second double play of the night. get out of this inning unscathed. Now he's got those 27 home runs and also 30 doubles.
Short lead by Votto at first. Missing low with the 0-2 delivery. So you think about the frustrating things piling up. You saw an 0-2 hit to Brandon Phillips to start things off. He later scored. Some hanging sliders, a stolen base, a swinging bunt hit. So far things not going John Lackey's way. And there's a good pitch on the outside corner, a called third strike. Not sure what Frazier was looking for there.
Whatever it wasn't this. Looking for a breaking ball. Looks like he gets a fastball down around the knees, and he knew it.
Wasn't really outside even. It was just hard of the plate and low.
Yeah, just down, trying to get a ground ball, get out of the inning.
Cardinals often will try to get Frazier with a slider, and perhaps he was looking breaking ball, which is always dangerous.
That's what I think he was looking for, something off speed, and guessing wrong.
Brings in Jay Bruce.
I think the Jay Bruce base hit was one that also really ticked off Lackey.
Yeah. Lackey's been able to handle Todd Frazier so far. Arguably the best player on this team. You might say that about Votto, though, but the rest of the lineup has been nothing but trouble so far. The 2-0 pitch is a called strike on the inside corner. May have gotten a break there. Again behind in the count, John Lackey.
Yeah, it's so uncharacteristic for him to be behind. He's already walked 2.
The 2-1 from Lackey. Ground ball right side. Playing deep is Wong, so he throws out Jay Bruce. Lackey feels a little better. 3-0 Cincinnati. Use hashtag MWDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Cardinals need some offense here. Top of the 3rd inning. They trail by 3 in the early going. And so far, Anthony DeSclafani has picked up right where he left off in St. Louis. Cardinals have now gone 25 straight innings, make that 24 straight innings without scoring a run against Cincinnati.
I hope your forecasting business isn't accurate. But Grichuk,
I hope not.
He had 3 home runs on the homestand.
Swing and a foul back.
6-game hitting streak for Grichuk. And you know, when you start looking at it now, this is his 58th game start, and he's batting .292 during that time.
He's really become a force, and he finds himself in the 8th spot in the lineup. Hard hit and foul.
He's also finding himself among the rookies of the year candidates in the National League.
A lot of good candidates, and he's certainly there. Peterson for LA has the home runs. Of course, Chris Bryant, the biggest fanfare.
Got some pitchers on the list too, you know.
Speaking of rookie pitchers, the Cincinnati team, I don't remember the last time I saw a team with 5 rookie pitchers in their starting rotation at one time.
Well, that's what they have right now. You know, Cueto and Leake were traded. Homer Bailey's out for the year. So you have 5 rookies in their starting rotation right now. And I've talked to some of the Reds. They said their number 1 prospect is a pitcher. He's not up here, but they've got several more young pitchers in the minor leagues. So maybe things are not as bleak as you might believe.
Reds record 47-56, 4th place in the Central, 19 games behind St. Louis. Hard hit to center. Hamilton on the move. He's back to the track, and he can't get it. Off the base of the wall. Grichuk round second. He's headed for 3. Randal Grichuk, another triple. That's his 7th of the season. A nice attempt by Hamilton. Another ball hit on the nose by Randal Grichuk.
And this is a triple they're not going to take away. Remember, they took one away from him. Took it into a double. But here, misses location a little bit. But that just gives you an indication how strong he is. It really didn't sound that crisp. Sounded like a little bit off the end of the bat, but it carries so well. And as you said, Hamilton tried to make the circus catch, but it got by him and goes all the way for a triple.
John Lackey now with a chance for an RBI. He has 1 on the season, infield back, and he waves at that delivery. Strike 1. Lackey, of course, not a lot of at-bats as a longtime American leaguer, and they're going to try to be as nasty on him as they can be and try to get the strikeout. See if he can put the ball in play. Little ground ball right side, that's all he needs to score Randal Grichuk. And the pitch. Foul back.
And Ricky, wouldn't it be fitting that with the Cardinals being shut out by the Reds for 24 consecutive innings, that would be a pitcher to get the first RBI?
The 1-2, and it's not going to happen. Swing and a miss. Lackey strikes out. That's 5 for the young right-hander. Krispy Kreme dozen deal. If your St. Louis Cardinals get 9 hits today, you're invited into Krispy Kreme tomorrow to receive a dozen of their original glazed donuts for only $3.99. Stop by one of the 4 St. Louis area Krispy Kreme locations for this sensational deal. That brings in Matt Carpenter, again the infield back. The Reds, with a 3-0 lead, are conceding a run here. Big swing and a foul by the Cardinal third baseman.
They're doing the right thing. You know, concede that run. You play an infield in, try to stop that run, you open yourself up for a big inning.
Frazier, perhaps the only Reds infielder that would have a shot at Grichuk coming home, and he moves in a step or 2 more.
Part of that's keep Grichuk taking a huge lead over at third. Keep him check a little bit. See Oquendo going over all the scenarios. Want to take that secondary lead, get a big jump off there, but you got to be able to get back on a line drive to the third baseman too.
1-1. He has the sign and the pitch, swing and a miss. He blew that one by him up in the zone. The Cardinals, Al, would like more than one run, but you've got to get at least one run.
That's it. You have to at least get the one run, start pecking away. Like Carpenter was going downtown with that last swing.
Downtown's the other
way. And he swung and missed.
He's going to Kentucky with that swing. The 1-2 pitch to Matt Carpenter. Foul to the left side. Carpenter digs in. Trying to protect. Trying to pick up an RBI here. 1-2. Hit hard to center field. Hamilton on the move. On the move. And that ball is halfway to Kentucky. Home run, Matt Carpenter. And the Cardinals get on the board. It's 3-2 Cincinnati.
Carpenter had 3 home runs on the homestand. They were all in the Colorado series, and now does damage here. His 14th home run, RBIs 53 and 54. That ties Peralta for the team lead in RBIs at 54. More importantly, Lackey and the Redbirds are back in this game.
The scoreless streak is stopped against Cincinnati Red pitching.
Told you I wouldn't let you go to 25.
You were all over that. Never do math. Never get in a math contest with Al Hrabosky, I always say.
Well, you know, you're at such a disadvantage with that school you went to.
I'll get Piscotty to help you. Right on the screws.
And that's what we talk about too. In this ballpark, you know, you can't get away with. Sometimes they're even good pitches. It's a small ballpark. The ball will jump here, and no lead is ever safe. The Cardinals know that very well.
Matt Carpenter, 14th home run of the season. 1-2 is outside to Piscotty. Piscotty bounced out in the first. Carpenter, in so many ways, is leading this Cardinals team, especially the offense right now, but kind of nice to see him happy and smiling again.
Well, you know, we always talk about that. Carpenter really is he's the igniter. What he does really translates what the offense does. And since moving back into the leadoff spot, you know, he was hitting .356 from that spot, and that was prior to tonight, and he's 1 for 2.
Full count now to Piscotty.
That's why you really love it when the low end of the order can get something started where Carpenter keeps it going, next man up.
Call third strike. Piscotty not sure about that call. Second strikeout in the inning. And it brings in Jason Hayward.
So he set up inside. You can see why it catches this fox tracks, but when a catcher catches it awkwardly like that because he was looking for the ball inside, a lot of times an umpire doesn't give it to you.
Wouldn't you say, Al, that umpires who now have to kind of almost discount how a catcher catches it because they are being judged by fox tracks and by all the kind of technology that maybe they've kind of stopped worrying about that? It's either a strike or it isn't. That was a strike, in and out. Hayward bounces out, but the Cardinals get on the board thanks to Matt Carpenter and Randall Gritchen. At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball, in-game highlights, live look-ins, replay reviews, radio broadcasts, StatCast, and more. Get MLB.com At Bat for your smartphone or tablet. New life for the Cardinals thanks to Matt Carpenter. 2-run shot in the top of the third. John Lackey back to work. And he'll face Marlon Byrd, Brian Pena, and Eugenio Suarez here in the third.
Real important inning for Lackey, and I think we're going to see his veteran presence come through right now. You know, he knows he doesn't have his best stuff. He didn't get off to a good start. Did kind of escape that inning with leaving 2 more runners on. But he'll kind of find it now that his team got him back in this ball game.
It's often how you finish, isn't it, Al?
Oh, yeah.
Ground ball, tough play for Carpenter. Long throw, and they got him. Terrific play on both ends. Carpenter and Brandon Moss.
Nice and easy over there with Brandon Moss. Nice soft hands, picked up that scoop. That was a tough play at both ends, as you say. You'll see right here how close this is to the bag and being in foul territory. But you can't take the time to umpire. You got to go out there and just execute the play. You got to assume it's going to be a fair ball. You can't turn around and look and see what the umpire calls. And then at the other end, it was a nice, easy hop right out in front where Moss could reach out, scoop it up, make the play.
Strike one to Pena. One of the things I loved about Carpenter there is he was able to catch the ball and set almost in the same motion. So there was no wasted time. He went from catch to throw very quickly.
We saw Nolan Arenado, you know, with the Rockies over the weekend, and the way that Tim McCarver and Dan McLaughlin were describing it reminded me an awful lot of Kenny Reitz. You know, Kenny was not blessed with speed at all, but he had a great first step.
Fly ball to right. Back goes Hayward near the track and makes the play.
And when you play in a reactionary position like third, you really don't have much time, more than one step and a dive. And Ritchie could make those plays. You don't get the nickname that he had.
Zamboni.
The Zamboni machine, you know, just the way he could suck up all the balls over there at third.
Well, you think about the number of third basemen that the Cardinals
Terry
have
Pendleton,
had.
yeah.
And Scott Rowland.
Scott Rowland.
Just really good fielders.
You know, Scott was kind of like these modern day ball players that, you know, here's a linebacker playing a finesse position.
Well, I really like Matt Carpenter for 1,000 reasons, but if the Rockies decided to give up on Arenado, I'd find a place for him too. We could put him somewhere, couldn't we?
Oh yeah, we could also move Carpenter someplace too. Have both of them,
and everybody'd be happy. Eugenio Suarez, base hit and an RBI in the first. In fact, his single really the difference in the game right now.
Yes, it is.
That came with 2 outs. In fact, a lot of damage done with 2 outs in that first inning. Popped up towards Hayward. A 10-pitch inning for John Lackey. Exactly what he needed. Al said it was an important inning. John Lackey responded. 6-2 Reds. 2-run home run by Matt Carpenter in the third inning got the Cardinals on the board. A 3-run Reds first inning. And St. Louis will send up Johnny Peralta to lead things off here in the fourth. He'll be followed by Moss and Molina. Peralta struck out in the first. In fact, DeSclafani has 6 strikeouts in the early going. When you watch DeSclafani pitch, doesn't make me think of a guy that's going to be necessarily a high strikeout guy. He's kind of a, be critical, I don't mean it that way, but he's just a right-handed garden variety kind of guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I think they even project him to be like a number 3 in their rotation.
Yeah, base hit to center for Peralta.
But it also tells you if he's number 3 that they're pretty good.
I would agree.
And Johnny gets one of his hits. So, you know, it's the second time through the order. We saw the graphic was when they hit the highest average. It was a little breaking ball, but you saw the hump and it just stayed above the belt, and Johnny took it up the middle. Brandon Moss, when we acquired him, yeah, he was hitting 217, but he led our club in home runs and RBIs.
Hard hit to center field, but Hamilton catches it head high for out number 1.
Peralta has passed Moss in home runs. 1 more, 16, and also 3 more RBIs. And now it looks like the Boos are a little more aggressive.
I think they missed their cue.
Into it.
No, I think they missed their cue. I think all of a sudden they realized, wait a minute, we're supposed to boo Yachty. I didn't get the memo. We'll do it next time. Molina bounced out in the second. One of the things you love about Yadier Molina is he is in the lineup, it seems like, every day. I know Cardinal fans are disappointed. No disrespect to Tony Cruz. When they come to the ballpark and Yachty's not playing, you can't play every day as a catcher. But it sure seems like he does.
Well, he does. You know, for the most importantly, he is out there day after day, and that was one of the reasons why he lost the extra weight, to guarantee that.
Yeah.
Cruz has only started 11 games this year.
Big hole on the right side for Yachty. The count now in his favor. Wouldn't be surprised to see him hit a ball the other way. He's been so good at that. Phillips has to play close to the bag in hopes of a double play. Votto holding on Peralta. And the pitch. Late swing and a foul tip handled by the catcher Pena.
Well, you talked about how Pena's had trouble throwing out runners. Yachty also, when he has a man in front of him, always a candidate for a double play. Why not be more aggressive?
DeSclafani has not pitched as well here at home as he's pitched on the road. Again, perhaps indicative of the ballpark. 2.41 earned run average. Gives up a lot more hits at home as well. Breaks pitch misses.
I say that number is a little bit misleading because he has a 3.75 overall ERA, and in a couple of his most recent outings, I think he gave up like 11 runs at home. So, but it definitely has more problems at home.
Now running is Peralta. There's that swing for Molina, trying to hit the ball to the right side.
He's so good at going that way, and with Votto holding on, Peralta, you know, really opens up that lane. You got a lot of times it looks like they kind of play Peralta to pull, or Yachty to pull the ball in the infield, with Phillips playing so close to second base. So a lot of room on the right side to hit the ball through.
So Peralta takes his lead. Will he go again? Full count to Molina. There he goes. Fly ball right field. Peralta picks it up. Bruce makes the play. for out number 2.
Still like it moving. Having a move, and then got a pitch in on the hands, and he popped it up to right. Peralta picked it up.
Now, we were talking about a moment ago about DeSclafani at home. I recall a couple of years ago, the Reds people telling us that they were having a hard time with Homer Bailey, who was convinced that he couldn't pitch at home. He got in his head. The ballpark got in his head, and he didn't feel like he could get it done. And they had to kind of do a little project with him to kind of say, hey, just be yourself here and not worry about it too much.
I think they took it to an extreme to give him a $100 million contract for a guy that can't pitch at home.
Well, that'll make him feel a little better about
I guess so, but
day.
You know, Homer's on the DL, lost for the season.
But you can imagine that being part of the manager and the pitching coach's job when a young pitcher comes up to Cincinnati to kind of get them to not worry about their surroundings too much.
Absolutely.
Of course, Denver, you have to deal with that.
Well, you'll learn real quick what works and what doesn't in this park.
And on the hands of Wong.
It's a ballpark where you make good pitches, you don't always get rewarded for it. You know, you can make a good pitch and the guy can hit it out. Same thing with like Houston with the short left field Crawford box there. Wrigley if the wind's blowing out.
The 2-1. Fly ball to left. Bird has it. 3 flyouts following a Peralta leadoff base hit. We go to the bottom of the 4th. Benches may be important here tonight, and with more on one of the Cardinals bench players, let's go back to Jim Hayes.
Yeah, Rick, we'll likely see Greg Garcia at some point tonight. He's becoming quite the weapon off the Cardinal bench. His 5 pinch hits lead the team, and he's done it on 10 at bats. He's 5 for 10. Got a walk to push across a game winner in the bottom of the 9th on Thursday. Greg told me he's not really used to being a pinch hitter because he didn't do much in the minors, so he's giving himself a crash course. He says the biggest change for him, spends a lot of time looking at video of opposing relievers he may be facing. He says that's new for him. Rick, he says just being at the plate in crucial situations can only help him as a player. He says coming through and helping the Cardinals win has really helped his confidence.
Well, thanks, Jim. He certainly has done that. Now, let me ask you about Greg Garcia. What have you seen from him as a player? What do you think his upside is?
Well, to be honest, I haven't seen that much of him. I'd like to see more of him in the field. But, you know, I understand he could play shortstop, second base, probably over at third base a little bit. I don't think anybody really considered his bat to be that big of an asset. But it has been this year with those 5 for 10 pinch hits. As you said, he's got a high on base percentage. That showed up with the walk, the game-winning RBI with a walk. His first major league home run shocked us all. Dead center field.
Loved his enthusiasm after
Oh,
that.
yeah. I mean, you couldn't. That was just pure innocence and everything else. But he's also one that I really like to get to know more because his grandfather is a good friend.
DeSclafani strikes out. That's how the bottom of the fourth begins. Talked about how Cincinnati has a very young staff. And you look at the experience difference between John Lackey and the Cardinals and the current five-man rotation for Cincinnati.
The numbers tell it all. All five of the Reds rookies. Tonight's starter for the Reds has the most. It's his 26th major league start of those 57. Sampson, the youngest one, had his first major league start on Sunday, but that's where they're going to go the rest of the way. 5 rookies. Actually played for Greg Garcia's grandfather, in Mexico, and went to a Caribbean World Series. All Jockety. All got, in the Cueto deal, he got 3 young left-handed starters in that deal. None of those guys are up here yet. Number 1 pitching prospect who just was named the International League Pitcher of the Week. So they got some pitching help, but
Bunt attempt by Hamilton.
But Ricky, we talk about too, like this ballpark can shatter your confidence. And I was kind of thinking about what you was talking about Homer Bailey, and got the belief that he couldn't pitch in this ballpark, and just the difference. Talking what Jim said about Greg Garcia coming through in the clutch, how it's really built his confidence.
Confidence, such a big deal.
That's
isn't
it. It's all between the ears, how you look at things.
I wonder. We talked about the ceiling of Greg Garcia, but what would the ceiling perhaps be of the guy at the plate, Billy Hamilton, if his confidence gets to a high level? He's got a lot of skills. Maybe 100 stolen base season in his future.
He shattered Coleman's minor league stolen base record. But you got to teach a guy how to hit. He can't steal first base, and he's a very good defensive player.
Yes, he is.
Strong arm and can go track him down in the outfield.
The Reds have some good pieces, and of course the great piece they have at the end of their bullpen is the guy you don't want to see for an entire series, and that's Aroldis Chapman.
Well, the one problem they got too is that their hitters are aging. So the pitching's getting younger and the hitters getting older.
Fly ball center field. Should be easy for Grichuk, who one-hands it. So another good inning. That's 8 straight retired by John Lackey. And absolutely right. John Lackey has settled down. He's retired 8 straight. And this is the part of the Cardinals order that picked up those 2 runs in the 3rd inning, led off by Randal Grichuk, who tripled.
Extended his hitting streak to 7 games. He came home on the 2-run home run by Carpenter.
How would you describe Randal Grichuk? And we get that question, Al, every place we go. The first question is, how do you say his name? The second question is, how do you describe him as a player?
Describe him with a big smile.
Right.
That he's still 23 years of age, and he's going to have his growing pains. But like I said, his average is up to 291 now, and that's about what he's hitting. When he's played down 58, 59 straight starts, or almost straight starts, but he's holding his own. Got great extra base power.
Ground ball, base hit to left. So Grichuk gets it going again here in the 5th inning.
And like I said, when you can get the bottom of the order doing something, then it rolls over to the top. And with Carpenter in that spot, it just seems like he thrives. But Grichuk, here it takes this one down, pulls it through the left side. The ball just jumps off his bat. You noticed that 2 years ago in spring training, right after he was acquired with Borges in the David Freese trade.
There's a bunt attempt, and Votto's going to go to the lead runner, and he gets him, and it's a double play.
Votto is very aggressive, but you can do that because if you get the lead man, you're going to get, Lackey, the bunter, and you're going to complete the double play. It gets out there. It's a risky play right there. He's a right-handed throwing first baseman, and it's a lot tougher for him to make that play. But once they got the lead runner, and even if they wouldn't have got him, they still would have got the out at first base. Ball kind of up. He does a good job to get it down, but you can see where that pitch kind of up, and he has to take a step back. He's not going to get out of the box quick at all. Plus, Lackey's not going to run. And I'm no fault. It's his. He's the pitcher. If he doesn't want to run, it's his game.
What stood out for me is where Brandon Phillips was on that play.
Oh, he was almost at the first base bag.
As that pitch was being thrown, Phillips, almost like the wheel play in reverse.
Yeah.
When you see the third baseman or shortstop covered third, we saw the second baseman. I mean, he was almost right behind Joey Votto when that bunt was laid down. So they were allowing Votto to charge hard and being aggressive on that bunt defense, and it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, and Pena likes to throw too, and he would have thrown behind the runner, Grichuk, at first base if the bunt wouldn't have got down. So a lot of things were going on there, and it all worked out well for the Reds.
Sinker misses. May have been a changeup just at 86.
The changeup is a pitch he's kind of working on with the lefties. A lot of times they also say he has trouble, when he's been pitching down to the right-handers, and he wants to go up to, say, like the left-hander. He'll start going up, and then he has trouble getting it back down again. The only place you're going to learn is right there on that mound.
Full count to Carpenter. Swing and a foul. And it's time for our AT&T U-verse rewind. This came in the 3rd inning. He swings. 430 feet later, it's a souvenir and a 2-run home run for Carpenter. Swing and a miss. He strikes out for the 2nd time. And that's 7 for DeSclafani. Reds lead by 1. Bruce. 3-2 Cincinnati. John Lackey 71 pitches through 4. He has settled down, but this will not be a simple inning for him. The 5th, as he faces these 3 very dangerous hitters. Votto has singled and walked already here tonight, and that pitch is low for a ball. The 1-0 is taken for a strike. Votto, in the month of July, from July 10th through the 28th, reached base 2 or more times in 15 straight games.
And that was stopped in St. Louis, that streak.
Ground ball right side. Moss flips to Lackey. And we talked to Al about that defensive play, the double play turn last inning, very daring for Cincinnati. Walk us through it.
Yeah, watch Phillips, the second baseman. You got Grichuk on at first. Lackey's going to try and sacrifice him into scoring position. As the pitcher's in the windup, look at Phillips. Just keeps on going. Just keeps on going. Now he's kind of behind Grichuk, but now he comes right in. That allows the first baseman Votto to charge heavily. He gets to throw there. They get the lead man, and there's Phillips right there at first base to receive the throw. Or a pickoff throw if they wouldn't have got the bunt down.
Hard hit to right, but in the tracks of Jason Hayward. Frazier's 0 for 3.
Rick, once again, you're talking about a veteran like Lackey. Obviously, very frustrated the first inning. But, here he stays within himself. And he kind of regroups. And now he got out there, and he's going to end up, pitching a heck of a ball game, keeping his team in this ball game, and hopefully he'll get the reward. But that's where a lot of young kids would have failed and been eliminated after the first inning.
We all know that there are times that an athlete, you just kind of want to take your ball and go home. Yeah. It's just not that day. But you can't do it. You got to keep competing, and when you do, sometimes things will turn, as they have for John Lackey today.
I think one is accepting responsibility.
Right.
You have the responsibility every 5th day to be ready to pitch mentally and physically. Now there are going to be times where it's going to be tough to do either one, but there's other times, and if you're a veteran like Lackey, you can fight your way through it until something positive happens, and then you start building on it, like he has right now with retiring 10 straight batters.
And ahead 0-2 on Bruce, and the pitch misses the inside corner. Good velocity. That pitch at 93.
And that's right there. He's ahead in the count. He either wants that pitch to be perfect in on the hands or in on the hands to move him off the plate and repeat it back in.
Back in, just missing. 2-2.
Got that little backdoor ball coming back over to the inside part of the plate. Does that open up the outside for him?
The 2-2. Breaking pitch low. Full count to Jay Bruce. Bruce doubled to get the Reds on the board. RBI number 61 for him. He also bounced out in the second.
That was a pitch away from him that he sliced down into the left field corner.
Shift is on again. Full count and a swing and a miss. He strikes out Bruce. 11 straight now for Lackey. He has found his groove. Throwing strikes, getting outs. On to the 6th. The Hall of Fame and the annual induction process that gives fans a voice in honoring the team's greatest players. The 2015 induction class has been selected, and the Cardinals and Edward Jones congratulate the newest members of the Cardinals Hall of Fame: Curt Flood, George Kissel, Ted Simmons, and Bob Forsch.
Great class there. Unfortunately, Teddy's the only living member.
I think that has been a tremendous addition to the whole Cardinal process. Their Cardinal Hall of Fame, I think, Al, is so fitting for this organization to be able to honor players from the past. The Cardinals care about history. The fans care about history. And to be able to honor them in that way is just a terrific thing.
There he is.
Little flare and just foul down the right field line.
Another backbreaker if that falls in, but you're absolutely right. And of course, a lot of kudos to the DeWitt family for what they have contributed to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. You know, it is second to none, or second to Cooperstown, right, the way to put it. But that's a joy in itself right there. And
just to visit it's amazing. It's terrific. You know, I haven't been there where I've had enough time to see everything. I've been there a number of times, but always want to come back for more. Hall of Fame Museum, of course, the plaques outside, and those four will be honored. And the ceremony is always a special time, too. Call third strike. Very similar to the last at-bat for Stephen Piscotty. And another strikeout for DeSclafani. That's 8. What's on tap is always brought to you by Budweiser, and that's the Cardinals and the Reds going at it again tomorrow. Coverage begins at 5:30 on Fox Sports Midwest. Martinez and Holmberg. Cardinals starting staff, Al, is so good it really doesn't make any difference who's starting on that day. You have a sense that you're going to win. Now, I'm not saying you are going to win, but you have confidence that you're going to win.
Well, I think you can even take it a step further and say you got a potential of a shutout every day. And that is a wonderful feeling to have. You know, when you take the field and you know you're going to win the ball game, and every day you're looking forward to it, you say, well, there's really not one starter that you really feel that is not capable of winning on a daily basis.
Hayward 1 for 2. Singled in the first. Cardinals starting staff ERA of 2.67, first in baseball. They've given up the least number of home runs in all of baseball. Check swing, but a call third strike anyway. So Hayward a strikeout victim. 2 strikeouts in the inning for the rookie right-hander. You can join us for the St. Louis Browns night presented by Garden View Care Centers. That's going to be Monday, August 17th. The Cardinals will host the San Francisco Giants. Fans who purchase a special St. Louis Browns theme night ticket will receive a limited edition Browns cap. Get your theme tickets now at cardinals.com/theme. Johnny Peralta struck out and singled. Every Cardinal except Molina and Grichuk has struck out at least once. And we're only in the 6th.
This is already a career high in strikeouts.
He has used that changeup very effectively, and the slider's been good. And he has just found ways to put the Cardinals away. Ground ball right side, another base hit for Peralta. This one with 2 outs. And that'll bring in Brandon Moss, the newest Cardinal.
Yeah, that always is, getting base hits here with 2 outs, no big deal, because one pitch could turn it into a crooked number. So they wanted it inside. You can see how far he misses all the way across the plate, and a good piece of hitting. Just try to punch the ball through that right side. The ball was out there and gets rewarded with the base hit.
Missed location is normally not a good thing for a pitcher. First pitch to Moss. Line drive, base hit the other way. So another hit with 2 outs. Cardinals not done yet here in the 6th inning as Moss gets his first hit of the night.
Remember, he got the start here because he was 3 for 6 and a home run off of Scarfini. And here, another pitch away, and he doesn't look like a 217 hitter by taking that pitch out there and driving it to left, the opposite field.
Molina has bounced out, flown out to right. Chance for some 2-out hitting for Yachty. With a runner in scoring position, that's Peralta. Again, we need to mention the good arms in the outfield for Cincinnati. Ground ball left side, and Suarez gets his man. So the Cardinals strand 2 more. They've stranded 4. We go to the middle of the 6th. Cardinals trail by 1. Base percentage this season, Miguel Cabrera, who's been hurt, at .456. Goldschmidt leads the National League. Harper and Votto right behind him. Those 3, everybody's choice perhaps for the MVP of the league in the early going. And let's look at what Johnny Peralta did, Al, on the base pass.
Well, you can see he's trying to get in the way and mess up the timing of Suarez, the young shortstop, who's committed 10 errors. But he's done a nice job in replacing Zach Cozart, who's out for the year with a bad knee.
There's a strike on the outside corner to Marlon Byrd. A little fuzzy for me, Al, but that may come under the category of distracting a fielder, and whether or not that's a legitimate thing for Johnny Peralta to do.
He's an infielder. He knows what it could possibly do, you know, disrupting the timing, screen the ball from the shortstop. And you know, really, when you think about it, if that's the only way Yachty's going to get going to be safe down there and extend the inning is if they boot the ball or throw it away.
0-2, and a check swing. Did he go? No.
Ricky, I'm going to have to teach you something.
All right.
Everything is fair. There's no cheating unless you're caught.
Oh, okay. Let's see. No cheating. I'm not taking notes here. No cheating. Unless what now?
Unless you're caught.
Unless you're caught. Okay, got it. I'll write that in my diary. Life lessons, folks, from Al Raboski.
A whole bunch of people in prison. They got caught.
Oh, boy.
Take that one.
Which you are clearly, Al, not advocating.
No.
Phew. The 1-2 is bounced to the left side, and that'll be foul. Molina's going to go and get it, make sure it stays foul.
I think at first he was waiting to see if it would roll back and fair, but then when he saw Bird was running, he turned to look too. Then he decided I better keep it foul. Mackey settled down. The last base runner was Votto back in the second inning.
Action for the Reds in their bullpen. DeSclafani is due up fourth in the inning. Burke Badenhop getting loose. And we're at the time of the game where you start thinking about bullpen and bench players.
Well, the one thing too is, you know, it is the goal of the Cardinals to knock these starters out as soon as possible. The longer you can get into their bullpen, or the sooner you get into their bullpen, they've had a lot of problems down there until they get to Chapman.
Not in the ninth, but before the ninth.
And Hoover's doing a pretty good job, I guess, in the eighth, but you know, a lot of games are won in the sixth and seventh.
And that's where we are in the sixth. The 2-2 from Lackey, and he doesn't hold up that time. It seemed to be much different than the earlier swing, but a strikeout for Lackey. He gets Bird, who's now 1 for 3, and he continues Al to roll.
Yeah, Lackey's trying to pick up his 10th win of the season, and that would be 12 straight seasons with 10 or more wins. You know, minus 2012 when he missed the entire year with Tommy John, but he has been an outstanding pitcher for a long time.
Facing Brian Pena, who does have some power. Not seen it this season, but there have been times where I've seen him hit líneas against the Cardinals. No home runs on the season, 11 RBIs. Devin Mesoraco on the disabled list for Cincinnati. They were counting on him to be their irregular catcher.
And that's something too, where Mesoraco has a hip issue that is so bad that they don't know if he's going to be able to catch anymore.
Also concussion symptoms, which make them think about him maybe being an outfielder, perhaps a left fielder. So Reds are going to have to develop another catcher.
You're right. We've seen Payne get a lot of base hits, but you know, it seems like with more playing time this year, they figured out a way to get him out.
I think that's right. 2-2 the count. Lackey, that rough first inning, and he's a couple outs away from having a quality start. Working here in the sixth. The 2-2. Spoiled that delivery.
I think Lackey is showing all young pitchers on both sides, you know, what a real professional does. Go out there and you have that disastrous first inning, but you don't let it beat you. And it just needs to be rewarded by his teammates.
Good pitch, just missed. Lackey wanted it. Where is it? Low?
It looks like he set up outside and could have gone either way, but you know, it's one of those he set up outside and he kind of reaches over the middle, but it's still, you know, it should be called a strike.
So Pena gets another life. And the 3-2. Liner to left, right at Piscotty. 2 outs in the sixth. Cardinal fans, did you know that the StubHub app is personalized just for you? Now with the StubHub app, you can select your favorite teams and artists and discover new ones too. Start at StubHub and let the fun find you. StubHub is the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Cardinals. Eugenio Suarez. That's a name that's just, frankly, fun to say.
Suarez last year was with Detroit, and the Tigers make news today with Dave Dombrowski apparently stepping down or out.
With the Tigers.
Very, very well respected baseball man. He's out there in the open market.
Been disappointing for the Tiger fans this year.
Sometimes you look at the Cardinals will play Carpenter in particular so close to that line, you almost say it's too close. But the idea is we'll take a double away down the line, but we'll give up a base hit to his left. It's just a single. Guarding the line for who, Al? Who's the guy at the plate? Suarez. It's more fun when you say the whole thing. Eugenio Suarez. See how much fun that is? Yeah, Suarez. All right. You're only having half the fun. 3-0. Breaking pitch. Again throwing a 3-0 breaker. We've seen that a couple of times from Lackey here tonight. That's kind of like your get-ahead curveball to start a batter off, but 3-0. 3-1. Late swing and a foul. Made the fastball a little bit quicker. It sure does. Probably Lackey's last inning of work. He's due up third, and you sure hope the teammates reward him, but you got to get this final out here in the sixth. What a finish this would be if Lackey retires Suarez. 3-2 pitch, popped him up. Hayward puts it away. 14 straight retired by John Lackey, who makes it through 6. Wong, Grichuk, and a pinch hitter when we're back. Fan photo of the game, and here it is. You can tweet your strongest fan photo to hashtag MWDataStrongFan for a chance to be featured in an upcoming broadcast. And that is brought to you by T-Mobile. Some Cardinal fans on hand. Saw a number hanging around Cincinnati here this afternoon, and very good start for DeSclafani, but our Chevy call to the bullpen is the right-hander Burke Badenhop. Yeah, Badenhop hasn't allowed a run since July the 3rd. That covers 12 games, 10 and a third innings, just 4 hits. And he's got 32 appearances since April that he's posted a 1.87 ERA. So he's been doing the job a little bit here. So then you kind of have Badenhop for the 7th, then you have Hoove for the 8th, and you don't want to see Chapman in the 9th. So imperative for Little Pop Wong to do something here and get something going to reward Lackey for his great effort. And you'd like to see him get something going in the Gateway Honda home run inning. The Cardinal hits a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers will donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So we're all wishing right now for a Cardinal home run. Wong fouls the first pitch, straight back, strike one. Badenhop has been giving up a hit per inning. He's allowed 2 home runs. He's walked 15 and only struck out 18.
Ground ball left side, base hit.
There we go.
Well done, Colton Wong. Just took that ball the other way, took what they gave him, and a leadoff hitter aboard with speed.
And not only that, but you got a power source in the on-deck circle. If you take a look at this, next look at the ball running away from him, and good concentration, just going down, hitting down on that ball, punching it through on the left side of the infield. Now that power in the on-deck circle's in the batter's box.
He's ready. That flat bat that he developed during the offseason with an attempt to be quicker to the ball, an attempt to ultimately cut down on strikeouts, which I think he has done some.
Yeah, especially playing every day now. You know,
exactly.
He's done it. Greg Garcia moves to the on-deck circle, so Badenhop looks like the kind of guy who's getting a lot of ground balls. Some go through, but you also have that potential for double play. Got both speed on the base. Wong and Grichuk at the plate.
Interesting story in USA Today about the number of ground balls increasing in baseball, which many believe is part of the reason why the offense has been down the last couple of years. And they also believe that the strike zone has maybe been kind of added to at the lower part of the zone. There's a ground ball left side. Frazier to second. They'll get the lead runner, and that's it, as Wong goes in there hard. And Phillips doesn't seem to mind.
Now, it was done cleanly, and got 2 second basemen there. But Frazier gets the lead man, and now Garcia will bat with Grichuk on first. Well, Ricky, I've been told that the umpires were instructed this year to call a lower strike zone to get more offense. That doesn't make sense to me.
Not to me either.
And what it's done as a byproduct, you're getting more ground balls because they're trying to protect down there. And, call it a higher strike zone, and then you'll get more offense.
Hard hit to left. Off the bat of Garcia. Tagging up but not able to advance is Grichuk. So a couple of quick outs following the Wong single here to lead off the 7th. And we're back to the top of the order in Matt Carpenter. I'm with you, Al. I've heard that discussion, and I don't understand that for the life of me. And when I want offense, give the higher strike, not the lower strike, to me makes a lot more sense.
And people go, well, what do you mean give a higher strike? Give a higher, call a higher strike zone. You're going to see how many hanging breaking balls they get crushed that they don't swing at because it's a ball. But also, if you got a pitcher that can consistently go at the top of the new strike zone and get guys to chase above it, it'll help the pitcher. But more guys will get hurt by the ball coming. And we're talking about when I played, the strike zone was to the armpits. It wasn't at the belt like it is today. Pitches at the top of the strike zone, if you call that elevated strike zone, are going to be hitter's delight.
Because a mistake is a real problem.
Right.
If you're trying to get outs there. There's a good pitch, inner half to Carpenter.
And think about this too. All these defensive alignments everyone's so proud about, well, those are combat ground balls, aren't they? So if you elevate the ball, you're going to hit the ball in the air. As strong as the guys are today, they hit more balls in the air, more balls are going to go out.
Just by the eye test, it would seem to me that the shift, particularly against left-handed hitters, balls hit to the right side, it's almost impossible to hit a ground ball base hit to the right side these days when you've got 3 guys over there. And with the second baseman playing back, I think that has definitely cut down on some of the offense. 2-1 to Carpenter. Line drive, base hit.
We say that how the Cardinals go is how Carpenter goes, and usually when he gets one hit, he'll get a multi-hit game.
Grichuk advances first to third. Runs well. He is the potential tying run. 2 outs, he's off.
Yeah, he really doesn't need a third base coach on a ball like that. He knows. If you look and saw that they didn't have that second baseman playing in short right field, you know that that's going to be well in front of the right fielder, and he could go over to third.
Classic example. A ball hit just like that, Al.
May have been an out.
May have been an out if they'd have put this severe shift on Carpenter. So Piscotty, a chance for some damage against Badenhop here in the 7th inning. 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position. An opportunity here. First pitch to Piscotty. Ground ball left side. Frazier has it. It's Carpenter at second. Badenhop through the 7th. Time to stretch. Reds 3, Cardinals 2. Three 3-2 Cincinnati. John Lackey righted the ship after a rough first inning. He went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs. Matt Carpenter, a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning. DeSclafani, another good start against St. Louis, 9 punch-outs. And Marlon Byrd, a key hit in that 3-run Reds first inning. Time for our Chevy call to the bullpen now, and it'll be Seth Maness, who Al has been very busy this season.
Second most appearances in the National League. And well, that ties Segrist now. 54 appearances for each of them. And one of the reasons why they got some extra protection. The starting pitching has done so well, and you think you got some insurance down the minor leagues there, but you've been using Maness and Rosenthal and Segrist so much that I think it was very smart for John Mozeliak to go out and get Broxton and Cishek. But boy, kind of unfair to some of the guys that got demoted.
Sokolovich, I felt when he went down, Al, I just felt bad for it. Thought the guy had done well, but certainly going to get a call up again. At some point they'll use him. But I think not having a Jordan Walden maybe when they thought they might, and Matt Belisle not being able to respond and come back quicker, and he's going to be out longer. So I think that they did feel like that was a need, particularly with the games you're talking about. Segrist, 54 games. Maness now 54. Randy Choate 52. That's 1, 2, 3 in the National League. Schumacher. Base hit up the middle. He has been very, very effective as a pinch hitter for Cincinnati.
All right, he leads the major leagues in pinch hit at bats, hits, doubles, and extra base hits. This is his 16th base hit, and he does a good job to fight that one off and just get it up over the middle where nobody's at. But Skip, one of our favorites, like you said, in his last 38 pinch hit appearances, he's got 12 hits with 5 doubles and 3 walks.
That's tough to do. Our Hyundai pitch arsenal. Cardinal reliever Seth Maness.
I just think mostly the sinkers. He's got the slider and the change. He kind of alternates with depending on left or right-handed batter. And he's a strike thrower.
Bunts it up in the air, and Molina makes the play.
Well, he could have dropped that one easy for a double play, couldn't he? You know, Yachty's thinking that all the time, but Skip really didn't get far up that bag. He'd be dead as a runner either way with Yachty's gun.
Well, the problem is if you let it drop, you sure don't want to throw it to second, then to first. So,
well, watch. Well, but Hamilton doesn't run at all, and Skip's caught no man land. Look at Hamilton stops, so that's not part of your equation because of Hamilton's speed. On turf, you're always worried about letting it bounce because it might bounce over your head. But in the grass, a ball like that usually lays dead right where it bounces.
I'm still afraid that Billy Hamilton from a dead stop would still have gotten to first base before that ball.
But he could have thrown to first. He could have thrown to first, and then they had Schumacher in the tag down or run down and tag him out. But I know what you're saying. He's not Cool Papa Bell speed. Remember how fast Cool Papa Bell was?
I've heard this about Cool Papa Bell.
He could turn off the light and be in bed before the room got dark.
I don't know if that was Satchel Paige's line or Cool Papa's line about himself, but I had the honor of meeting him at Busch Stadium years ago. And I don't have a lot of autographs, Al. I've got one of you, which of course is a prized possession.
Well, we're about the same age.
Do a little pandering here, but my favorite autograph that I do have is one that I have of Cool Papa Bell.
And it really is a tragic and yet good story. But the last few years of his life, he was recognized as a Hall of Famer. And if I'm not mistaken, they found him as a janitor at the St. Louis City Hall or the jail. And then his life really changed once he was discovered and got to enjoy the life of a Hall of Famer the last few years.
Just happened to stop by today the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Museum, which is on the way to the ballpark here, and they have a diversity in baseball exhibit now, and people coming to Cincinnati highly recommend it. A lot of good things in there about baseball's effect on civil rights. Swing and a miss, and Phillips strikes out. Couldn't keep the hands back on that slider from Seth Maness, and that may be his last pitch.
Yeah, it's his last pitch. Looked like good slider because he offered at it. And you can see Phillips why he's mad at it. That ball bounced 5 feet out in front of the plate. And you would think that we're going to see, the 53rd appearance by Schultz. I assume he's warming up.
Maness out. Schultz in. Skip to the loo. There's your story of tonight's game. Big moment here. Randy Choate facing Joey Votto, and he misses low and away. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. The Cardinals trailing by a run. Can't give up any more.
Votto is 4 for 12 off of Randy. I'll tell you, there's times when Randy has some buzzer luck. You know, where if he comes in, face one man, if the guy gets on, then this guy usually comes around to score. Or other times, you know, he does a great job. We just take it for granted. But
happened during the homestand.
Yeah, and it was an inning where it went 1 2/3.
Exactly. So what I'm thinking of.
He left the one runner on, and he was like on first base, but he ended up coming around, and somebody else came in behind him. And you're usually talking about Votto's and the best hitters in the game. That's what he usually has that one-on-one matchup with.
This should be his only batter of the game, and he's thrown 3 balls so far to Joey Votto, and the 3-0 pitch is in at the knees. There's the relief appearances we were talking about. Maness has now caught Segrist, Choate at 53, top 3 in the National League. Breaking ball hit on the right side. Wong flips to Moss. Randy Choate gets the job done. On to the 8th. Hayward when we come back. Go to our studio with this Bomberito Sports Update and Pat Paris. Thanks, Pat. Our Chevy call to the bullpen, the 8th inning pitcher for Brian Price and the Cincinnati Reds is J.J. Hoover.
And Hoover's done a nice job for them also. Somebody allowed 2 home runs dating back to last season. They came and won a blown save. We'd take a home run here, wouldn't we?
Okay by me. Might be the man to do it. Jason Hayward, 1 for 3, singled, walked, and it struck out.
Jason 1 for 3 off of Hoover. They were both in the Atlanta organization. Hoover, a hard thrower that Cardinals have had success against him at times, but pitching very well this season.
When he first came to the big leagues, Al, there was talk about him being the guy, being the closer eventually. Stuff was that good. You've got a guy that has great stuff in your 8th inning, you'll take it. Hard hit to center. Back goes Hamilton, and he makes the play. What a play by Billy Hamilton in center. That ball fooled him, but his athleticism took over. Terrific play.
We had said that he is a very fine outfielder, and the toughest ball for an outfielder is the one that's right at you. If it's to your left or right, you can kind of judge how far it's going to carry. And that's when this one was right at him, and it kind of fooled him at first. And so he had to go back, and then he just desperation dive.
Wow.
Jumps forward, dives, and everything else, and makes the play.
Terrific play by Billy Hamilton in center.
We used to love to see Jim Edmonds play center field in this ballpark. Jimmy would do those kind of catches up against, over the wall and bring a home run back. But that would have been a nice leadoff extra base hit.
So the play's good enough as it is, but you think about the situation, a one-run game in the 8th inning. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Ball really carried off the bat of Jason Hayward. The importance of speed in this game. Not just offensively, but defensively. Wow.
I think that's what surprises people. When you're down close and you see the speed of the game, whether it's velocity of a pitch, the ability to run.
4-pitch walk to Johnny Peralta following that play by Hamilton. So the Cardinals get a base runner here in the 8th. Tomorrow on Toyota Cardinals Live pregame, Michael Wacha and Carlos Martinez. This odd couple has developed quite a friendship, and we'll look at that tomorrow night at 5:30 on Cardinals Live.
Brandon 0 for 3 against Hoover. Well, we know he can find the seats here.
Yes, he can. First pitch, broken bat, popped up in the infield. Votto calls for it. The bat ends up in shallow right field almost. Glad that missed everybody, including Chris Maloney, the Cardinal first base coach.
Ended up being the first base umpire it was closest to, and it got his attention. Now he's 0 for 3, and he's got a chance to hear some louder boos tomorrow.
The 8th inning feel like the 9th inning when Chapman is on the other team.
Exactly, and that's, it's a helpless feeling, but that's a lot of times the way you look at it. And if you don't score this inning, then you start talking about the great challenge.
Right.
Hey, we're going to be equal to that challenge tonight. We're going to get Chapman tonight.
It's the only way to approach it.
Yeah.
Yachty is 0 for 3. Action in the Cardinals bullpen. Segrist and Cishek both getting loose. Peralta the runner, 2 outs. Late swing by Molina, 1-2. That play by Billy Hamilton looms large.
Go to right, Gotti.
Some room in the gap in right center, room on the infield on the right side. It's like they're pitching him away. The 2-2, and he tries to take it the other way with Peralta on the move.
Rick, in this ballpark, you don't want to throw anything on the inside part of the plate where a guy can cheat and hit it to the short field. So you can almost see that they're going to pitch him away, make him go that way. And that's one of Yachty's strengths, is when he stays on the ball late and takes it to right field.
Yachty trying to extend it to Colton Wong here in the 8th. Again setting up outside, and he misses outside. 3-2, and now for sure Peralta will be running.
Well, it's one of those situations you learn as a pitcher that you don't want to pitch it into a running count, especially in a one-run ball game.
Doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is.
It sure is.
You can lose games that way.
You can lose games that way.
There goes Peralta, and a fly ball down the right field line, out of play.
Yachty trying to do what we're talking about, and it ends up being one of his strengths. He's taking the ball that other way.
If there's any thought about pinch running for Johnny Peralta here.
It'd be a bad idea because one of the problems, you already used Garcia. But
Cosma.
But Cosma usually is your pinch runner, or Borges, but you'd have to use 2.
Now ball is short. Molina is thrown out, and the Cardinals are out here in the 8th. By Budweiser, make a plan to make it home. And by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Nice crowd here in Cincinnati. Tight game. Our Kia in the driver's seat. Todd Frazier, all-star third baseman for Cincinnati. 221 total bases on the season. Ahead of Nolan Arenado for Colorado. We talked about how good he is. Actually, they're tied at 221. Matt Carpenter at 162. Our Chevy call to the bullpen is Steve Cishek.
Already his 5th appearance for the Cardinals.
What have you seen from him in the early going?
Well, it was my bobblehead night, so I didn't see much that night. Kind of like you knew about that and yours.
I wasn't sure who we were playing on my bobblehead night. What a fun night, though.
But it was family and friends.
Oh, yeah. Watch out.
You know, I know earlier in the season he had trouble getting the ball down. Getting the ball down around the knees, getting his ground balls. He's left a couple balls up. Throws from that unorthodox delivery and kind of changed the eye look of everybody else, the hard throwers coming out of the Cardinal bullpen. And kind of hope you catch a little of the magic what Pat Neshek had a year ago.
Cishek has experience as a closer.
He had 39 saves last year. He had 32, I think, the year before. So with Broxton down there and all the guys, you know, you got a lot of different choices late in the game.
The 1-2. This is low.
Frazier is 1 for 4 against him. It was a double.
Frazier's been quiet so far tonight, but you always hold your breath when he's at the plate. Become a very good hitter. And a call, third strike, and he is out looking for the second time. On Saturday, August 15th, 25,000 fans 16 and older will receive a collectible Cardinals Hall of Fame inductees plaque courtesy of Edward Jones. The plaque honors the 2015 induction class that includes Curt Flood, Bob Forrest, George Kissel, and Ted Simmons. Tickets will be at cardinals.com/promotions. Wong, ranging to his left, throws out Bruce. Now, you're going to tell me that's a base hit? That's not a base hit 3 years ago?
That's right. That's a base hit. But with the defensive alignments, you know, you'll see 3 guys on the right side. Colton Wong, your second baseman, playing short right field and takes a hit away from Jay Bruce. Marlon Byrd is 3 for 3 off a Cishek.
Looking to the ninth, the Cardinals will have Wong, Grichuk, and the pitcher's spot. Aroldis Chapman is warming up for Cincinnati. Surprise, surprise. Cardinals have Reynolds, Cruz, Cosma, and Borges on their bench. We'll see one of them, and we'll also see this man. He'll bring it 100 plus onto the ninth. A very good close ball game here tonight. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, the rally caps are in force, and they're going to be needed against this flamethrower, Aroldis Chapman, or Chevy, called to the bullpen.
Well, somebody's beating him. He has 4 losses on the year. Opponents are batting 195 against him. 79 strikeouts in just 44 2/3 innings. And he blew a save. This was the stats we love to see. Blew a save on September 7th, 2012 versus Houston, and has converted 55 straight saves here at the Great American Ballpark. So he's due.
So somebody got to him. The problem was it was in 2012.
He has blown one save. That was on the road this year. 4 straight years and National League All-Star. This year, he struck out the side by throwing 12 of his 14 pitches at least 100 miles an hour.
That was a get-me-over fastball at 98 to Wong, who's 1 for 3. That pitch at 100 misses the outside corner. Oohs and ahs here at Great American Ballpark. Cardinals have struck out 9 times tonight.
Wong has never faced it. This is his first joyride.
See how much fun he has. 2-1. By the way, there's a promotion here in Cincinnati. Crowd will go crazy if Chapman strikes out a couple of Cardinals in this inning. 11 strikeouts means free pizza for people here at the ballpark.
That count us?
I don't think so. That almost looked like a cutter. Moving away from Wong. 2-2. Colton trying to put the ball in play, make something happen. Cardinals scored their 2 runs in the 3rd inning. A Grichuk triple, a Carpenter home run. Somehow, some way, will they get to Chapman? 3-2.
Take a walk, take anything.
Every pitch he's throwing seems to be across his body a bit, moving away from a lefty. I wonder if he's out of whack a little bit.
And most lefties all throw across their body.
The 3-2, swing and a miss. Strikes out Wong, who wants to know if that was a strike or not from our home plate umpire. Strikeout number 10 for Reds pitchers here tonight. Weekdays, don't miss America's pregame as Mike and Molly bring you live reports around the country for the latest from NFL training camps and get you ready for a full night of MLB action. Catch America's pregame every weekday at 4 p.m. on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Randal Grichuk dialed up his swing on that delivery. Slider from Chapman.
Grichuk 2 for 3. This guy's average at 293. He's 0 for 1 when facing Chapman. You got Reynolds on deck, so you got a couple guys, if they can center a ball, get it in the air.
So the fastest Chapman pitch, the fastest swing of Grichuk, how far would that ball go?
Well, the thing is, with his velocity, you just have to center it. You don't have to make a, you don't have to swing hard. Just be solid contact. It'll carry.
That's hard enough to make solid contact. The 1-1. 1-2.
There's a couple breaking balls he's throwing to him.
That young man is chanting, pizza, pizza. The 1-2. Swing and a miss. Strikes out Grichuk at 101. Hold the anchovies. Two outs in the 9th. Our Budweiser player of the game is Anthony DeSclafani. Another good start from him. 6 solid innings. 93 pitches, 2 runs, but Chapman trying to close it out. Looking for save number 23, and he will face Mark Reynolds. Certainly has the power.
They got their 11 strikeouts. They got their pizza. Now let's tie the game. Reynolds 0 for 2. pair of strikeouts and a walk against Chapman.
The 0-1. Hit hard to left, but right at the left fielder, Bird. 1-2-3 inning in the 9th inning. Chapman picks up the save, and there's your final. 3-2 Cincinnati. The runs came early, and the fireworks are out here in Cincinnati.
The Cardinals broke the streak. They did get on the scoreboard, but not enough. And Lackey takes another tough loss. He wasn't very good early, and it cost him this victory. But he really did make up for it, retiring, the last 14 batters?
And plenty to break down, Al, for the post-game show, and we'll head there right now. That's how the road trip starts. A 3-2 Cardinal loss at Great American Ballpark. Stay with us.